Okay, today we're going to learn how to make a web search on Web of Science and collect the search into your Endnote reference file. So as a start, let me just make this browser a little bit bigger. First, we go on Web of Science. Web of Science. You can search the URL here, and then we click there. If you're on the Georgia Tech website or Georgia Tech network, you have free access to the Web of Science. So when you get to the Web of Science, you get the usual interface here where you can put searches, and you can search by topic, by author, by a whole bunch of things. So for example, if I wanted to search my own publications, I could say dilorenzo.e. I would go here and select, for example, author on this list. Maybe I'm interested in only knowing the papers that came out in the last 2 years here, and I can search. Okay, and when I do that, I find 29 papers. If I scroll through these papers, I can see that some of them are actually not my papers. For example, this one over here, number 3, is not related to me. And so I can customize the search in my case. For example, I can add another field, and I can say, well, how about I put the address of the author? I know that the author in the last 2 years has worked at Georgia Tech, so I can just put Georgia. And by doing that, I should select only the references that I've done in the last 2 years that are in my lab. And then you can check here and you can see that indeed that is the case. Okay, so now let's make a search about a particular topic of interest. So let's remove these. And in this case, I want to search by topic, and I want to look at eastern boundary upwelling systems and climate. And I'm interested in knowing what is the most recent literature, because I want to see which papers get most cited, and those papers will probably have a good review of previous literature, so I don't have to go and dig them up. So I'm going to just choose the last 2 years of this and click search. When I do that, I get about 46 papers, and that are ordered by time here. And at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm interested in knowing which one got the most citation over the last 2 years. So somewhere over here, I think I can rearrange the order, so time cited. And when I do that, you can see that there are some that are cited more. This is 15. I actually am interested in expanding my horizon to 2015 because I know that there are some papers that I'm interested in that year. And when I do that, I see some papers that, like this one, intensification and spatial. Anyway, there's a lot of papers that come out. You go through them, you select a few, and what you do is when you want a paper, you click on the paper, and then you select it to your market list so that this essentially puts it in a basket. And at the end of your search, you can collect all these papers and bring them over into Endnote, your reference file software. Okay, now the other thing you can do, which is interesting, is, okay, so let's add that to the marketed list. When you do that, you see that they get this nice orange checkbox, so you know that those are in your list. And you can access your market list over here, but we'll do that in a second. What I also want to do, this is a paper that has been highly cited from Nature that talks about intensification, spatial homogenization of coastal upwelling under climate change. And it's been cited already 69 times. And so this could be a good start for your search, because if we go there, we can actually see who's citing this paper. And we can see essentially the latest things, or latest paper to talk, for example, in this case, about the impact of climate on the eastern boundary upwelling system. So we can go over these and see, are there any of these papers interesting to me? And you can go through, and for now, I don't see, and these are a lot of biological offshore expansion of the Brazilian coastal zone from marine isotopes, not quite what I'm looking for. I'm really looking for physical papers here. Climate change and ocean deoxygenation. This could be interesting. Bakun is a good author, so I'm just going to check it out just in case. Physiological and ecological implications, some of them are already marked before. Ecological energetics, no, not really. Upwelling promotes earlier onset and increased rate of gonodal. This is another biological paper. Examining Lagrangian transport. These are all biologicals for the most part. Anyway, I think you get the point. So we can go do this many times. And once we're done, again, you want to add those to your marketed list if you check any, and you can go back to your search results. The other thing you can do, of course, is in addition of seeing who cited that paper, you can also go in the paper and see what articles this paper is citing. Okay, so this is a cited reference, so you can see actually who they set reference before, and you can see global climate change and physical coastal upwelling. This is a classic paper. This is, of course, now outside the initial range of years because we selected, which was 2015-18, but it gives us some previous papers that might be interesting. This, of course, was a famous paper by Bakun on the climate change intensification, but this has been cited 596 times. So looking at these references would take a long time and may contain a whole bunch of stuff that you're not interested in. Delayed upwelling alters nearshore coastal ocean ecosystem in the California current. This also sounds kind of interesting, and you know, it seems like it's good authors. This is the California current. Canary upwelling, more or less. This also seems like could be interesting for our climate. What dynamics drive scenario for coastal upwelling of Peru and Chile. This could also be seen. These are good authors. Phenology coastal upwelling. I think the seasonality is really important. And a comparison of the eastern boundary upwelling ecosystem. This, of course, is kind of a classic North Pacific gyro oscillation. The seasonal time. This also is interesting. Anyway, and we can go forth. Okay, and I'm going to stop here for now for this. So at this point, let's make sure to add those to our marketed list. We go back to our marketed list here, and once we have here, now we can choose which records we want. Okay, so here we have all the things that we selected. In this case, I want to select all for each record. I want to select everything to this title, site reference. Most important, I want the abstract, so I can review the abstract in my Endnote file. Once I do this, I can essentially export all this list to my Endnote, which I'm doing right here. Okay, so I have now a file here in my Finder, which is called Save Recs. I've done some research, so it has a number. So let me run now Endnote. In Endnote, I will create a new Endnote library that I will save as a package. And in this case, I already created one. It's called eBoost reference, so I'm not going to create it, but that's what I would do. And I save package means that everything is going to be contained in one file inside one big file. So you can move it easily around your computer. So this is the reference thing. So at this point, I'm going to import my searches. Import. I'm going to go to downloads where I downloaded the file. I'm going to select the file, and then here in the import option, I'm going to select ISICE, which is the Web of Science filter. I'm going to discard any duplicate, no translation, and I'm going to import. Once I do that, I have all the files, the reference here, and what I can do now is just rearrange the way that I like it. So now you can see, you can click on a file, and you can see down here the citation. And if you choose the format, you can also see the citation with the abstract. You can customize further. This is where the F would appear in just a second. So you can customize it. I'm not interested in the details of the article. I can close it like that. I can change the font. You can customize this in the preferences. That's not as important. But the other thing you can do, you can select all these articles, and then what you can do is can go here and find full text. You can find full text. What that does, essentially, if you're on the Georgia Tech website or any university website or a network that is connected and has a license for Web of Science and journals, what this is going to do is going to go content journals, and it's going to start downloading the PDFs of each article that eventually you populate your library with things. The other things you can do, of course, as you write a paper, you can so for example, this is one PDF that was found, intensification. Well, now you have it here. It's very convenient because you can also look at the figures, you can mark it, you can do whatever it is that you want. With that said, if we go to our all references here, and we also have different type of filter, like Journal of Geophysical Research. And if you do that filter, what you can do is you can select all these reference. You copy formatted, and then you can put it in a Word file, for example. And when you do that, they're formatted, in a certain way. Okay. So this is right now. This is Open Sans, but you can change the font, and essentially you have all your references ready to go. Okay. So that's one advantage. Let's go back. But the most important one is that you could slowly use this to look at papers. When you write a paper, what you would do is you can in my case here, you can do 5 groups, create group, and you can say this is maybe eBoost comparison paper. Comparison paper. And what you can do is, as you cite certain papers, because you not end up citing all these papers, you can just grab it and put it in there. And so, suppose you cite a few of them. I'm just going to pretend here that I cite these. So at the end, when you're done writing the paper, all your references for the paper are already contained. And then at the end, you just have to here, copy formatted. You go in your file again, and you can essentially paste your references in your Word file, and you're done with the references. Okay, it's actually a very convenient thing. Other things that you can do is to add notes to your papers, but I find this less kind of useful for me. But if you find it useful, you can add notes. There's a way to add notes here. So this is all for the Note software, which you could download if you're at Georgia Tech on the software oit.tech.u. Okay, you click here to download software. You have login with your account, and you have double authentication, of course, in modern technology. And here you can download it for a whole bunch of systems. So if you're a Mac OS X, you can if you're a student, product here you got Endnote, do your software downloaded. Okay. I think this is also available for other platforms, but not Linux, because only Windows and Mac. So that's all for today. Thank you very much.